Well, if you followed along in the last video, we were starting to remove the tires. We had the tires off this right-hand side. Now I've got the tires off the left, and what we're going to do is we're going to clean this frame up. I got these fenders off of there. What it needed was it needed the metal tubes that go to the airbags. And they are a mongrel to put on with the tires on there. Of course, we put new tires on it. Kenworth didn't have all the tubes in stock. They had half of them. And we had to put the tires on, pull it out, so on and so forth. So I said, well, the only thing I'd like to do is replace the damn airbags. The airbags, they didn't need to be replaced. However, I just felt that we would, if we had them off in there, we could get in behind the airbag, get the frame cleaned up, and then we can, of course, get some fresh paint on there. Well, I'm taking the bolts off. I'm not going to put the same airbag back on. I did replace these airbags some 6-7 years ago. They were dry rotted. I never blew one, but they were dry rotted, and it's just not anything you want to do on the side of the road. Again, they're no fun to put on with the tires on there, nor are they any fun to put on when you have a trailer in the place, because it's nice to go over the top to get some of the bolts in, so on and so forth. So we are going to go ahead and put new airbags on it. We replaced these rear shocks back when we had the rear diff out. The front shocks were, well, the cover was a little rusted out, so I said we might as well replace them. I cut them off, and that is, of course, what is burning on the floor is the rubber top piece that goes on there. So we have removed everything with the torch, and for the most part we've got everything ready to just peel off with a hammer. We do have one new line on this side. Jared put that on one day, and he said, you know, it'd be a lot easier if the tires were off. I said, all right, well, take the frickin' tires off and whatever. So this one's new. It'll take a little while for the airbags to come in, but we'll be able to hold on to a couple of these. Actually, I can't hold on to them. I'll have to remove the stud from the bottom. I went and cut all the studs off. So looks like we've got some smoke in here, but oh well. So we're gonna go ahead and peel some of this garbage off of there, and then I get some nice relaxing work where I can just tend to myself and just start going down the side of this with the wire wheel. I won't be able to hear the phone, and I won't be able to have anybody come up to me with a problem, because usually when they see me doing something, they want me to fix their problem for them, because they get too, well, we won't go there. So let's get this stripped apart, cleaned up, and get some paint on there. We're not going to paint the frame red. We're going to paint the frame black. Something about that black color. Once you go black, you never go back, right? We need to match the cab. So, yeah. Well, we've got everything stripped off the frame that we need stripped off of there. I'm getting ready to go and fire up the wire wheel. It looks nasty, but it's in better, the frame is actually in better shape than what it looks like. That truck that Jared's working on right now, that frame was worse than this one. And we were able to get that cleaned up. And we painted that maybe 6-7 years ago. So this one needs just a little TLC. You might be asking, gee, Andy, why are you monkeying around with this 23-year-old truck? Well, we've got a lot of money into it. We've had, well, it's got a new transmission in it. Differentials have been gone through. We of course put a lot of money into the engine here last fall. I don't know if it was last winter or the winter before. I think it was last winter. We put new springs in it. And now everything outside of the cab and the frame, it's all been refreshed many times over. So we've got these old parts on the bench here. We've got our air tubes, steel tubes for the brake lines here. And you might say, geez, Andy, that's an 8-bag air ride. You've got 2 more to replace. Well, Jared put one on a couple weeks ago, and then one prior to that. So we do not need to replace them. The airbags, had we not been in the motions of replacing these airlines, I would not have monkeyed with these airbags. They are in decent shape. Usually you get some dry rot cracking around the creases on the bottoms and the tops. However, the metal part of this airbag has got a considerable amount of rust to it. Now, these airbags, when you get them, they're not painted. I've got a new one new one over here on the floor. And when we put them on, we just went around them with cheap spray paint, and that's why they didn't last. Now when we put them on there and put some real good paint on, they'll last a lot longer than the other airbags lasted here. Now another thing that I'll have to bring to your attention, the reason why we're doing all this is we have to keep up with our government subsidies here. We have to make an effort to put forth the work, and we will more than double our money with the amount of government subsidies that we're getting to farm and to run this shop here. So I know I've got a couple of guys that just keep on bringing that up, and I know right now they're probably melting. They're probably going to their mothers, and they're probably crying, and they're saying, see, this is true. This is true, he just said it, but being that they're doing all the crying right now, they're not hearing me talk about real life here. We're gonna spend the money somewhere here. We're either gonna spend it on truck payments, tractor payments, machinery payments. We don't have any of those. But the one thing we do have is repair payments. And the interesting fact about having the repair payments, we never know what we're gonna get into. With machinery payments, you know ahead of time. You know that, you've got to pay for this tractor, that truck, this piece of equipment, that piece of equipment, so on and so forth. We don't know what we're going to have for breakdowns at any given time, so it comes to us as a surprise. We're constantly being surprised. We're just constantly being surprised, aren't we, Jared?
You don't know, you make that payment on that new piece of machinery, you still got the surprise.
Yeah, so you still got the surprise. Yeah, so you got it. You're fighting a double-edged sword. So I know some of you think one thing and others will say another, but all I could do is just show you guys what we're doing, and if it looks this way or that way, so be it. It's no big deal. I just find it rather amusing, and every once in a while I have to get in there and twist things up a little bit. So with that being said, we're gonna fire up the wire wheel here. I wanted to show you this PTO here. This is the PTO off of truck 7, and we've got some numbskulls around here that they leave the PTO engaged when they shut the truck off, and then they start the truck up the next day or the next time they use it. And then once the truck comes up to air pressure, it tries engaging the PTO. And what it'll usually do is it'll rake these gears together. So this gear is the one that's up against the transmission turning all the time. And then we've got the one down in there that is mashed into this other one, and they just sit there and they grind against each other. And I don't know if you can see the rounded off teeth on that gear inside there, but they're rounded. We've seen them a lot worse than that, so we're gonna go ahead and get some new gears for this PTO. I had a couple of them upstairs, so Jared's got, you've got that one on already, right? Yeah. So he's got a rebuilt PTO installed onto that. So we might as well get started on running the wire wheel across this frame. All right, we are ready to roll this out the door. I'm gonna hit it with a pressure washer to get the dust washed off of it, and then we'll roll it back inside and get ready to throw some paint on it. Ended up pulling the fifth wheel off just so that we could clean the frame underneath where the fifth wheel was bolted on, which was from here to here. I'm not gonna do too much from the back of the fuel tanks forward. I just haven't got time. I should take the fuel tanks off and go at it, but I don't have time. So this is what we're doing. We're trying to just get these jobs done as fast as we can. We've got it hooked up to the payloader here. I didn't want to just bolt wheels on. We're just gonna very carefully pull it outside. Andrew's up in the loader. We've got the chains hooked and we are ready to go. All we need to do is just roll it out the door, get the pressure washer on it, and get her washed off. Nice and slow and steady. I probably should be up in there turning the wheel. Have to get out here and make sure the mirrors are going to make it through. Looks like the wheels are turned a little bit. Yeah, let's see here. I think we're gonna be all right. I'll turn this wheel here. Oh, I'm trying to motion to him and run the camera at the same time. Yeah, we got the mirrors through the doorway anyways. That was all we were really concerned about. All right, so I'm just gonna run around this with the payload or with the pressure washer, and then we can push it back inside. Well, we've got the 900 outside. I've went around it with the pressure washer already, and what I'm gonna use for a base coat is POR 15. However, before we can spray that on there, we have to go through a two-step process where we have to apply a degreaser, which I've already applied one coat of that. We'll show you how that goes on. And then we'll let that sit for 15 or 20 minutes. We'll rinse that off with the pressure washer, and then we'll apply the metal prep. We're gonna use the same process to apply it Let that sit on there, and then we have to rinse that off as well, about 20 minutes after it sits on there. This is like a phosphoric acid, and it actually etches the steel. It'll turn it just about white. So why don't we go ahead and we'll show you what this process consists of. I've shown this before. I just use a undercoating gun, and what I do is I end up spraying it on with this gun here, and I'll just demonstrate coming down through this one side here. I've already applied one coat on there, and I've just got a little bit left in the pail, so I might as well spend that, and then we'll rinse that off and hit it with the metal prep. So this is basically all this is. I just have a piece of hydraulic hose, this piece of, what is that, 3/8 inch hydraulic hose on there for a draw tube. And this is just more or less a siphon feed gun, and it blows it on there very nicely. So we'll go ahead and get this rinsed off, and then we can apply the metal prep. Well, we've got this all prepped. Now we just need to push it in the door, and then we'll set it down on jack stands, and this will have to sit a while before we can apply anything to it. So let's go ahead and get it inside. Well, it's the following day. It's actually Sunday, February 19th, somewhere around there anyways. But at any rate, we are all ready to shoot paint. However, the one problem I have, the airbags that I ordered, they came Friday. However, they are the wrong ones. They don't have the correct fitting to match these steel airlines. So I've got the new steel airlines coming through the frame, and then of course we've got the nut covered up with tin foil because we don't want to get any paint on that nut. We want to be able to have that seat fairly well, and then we'll have to go back in later on and put a coat of paint on that. The idea is to get the perches done up with POR 15. The part of the frame right here where the bag bolts to, bolt the bag on, and then go back through and start painting from one end to the other. So the plan is we're going to put POR 15 on as a base coat. Then we're going to go ahead and just as soon as that is tacky, we're going to cover it with red paint. So I've got the fifth wheel over here on the floor. We'll paint the bottom side of that, or put POR on the bottom side of that, and then we'll get the frame done, and then we'll set that into place, put another coat on, and then when we put the color on, the color will already be on there. I'm not going to put the bolts in. I'm going to line them up, maybe put a couple of them in. However, I've got fenders that I'm going to put on this, and it's going to use them bolts somewhere, I think. So once the POR gets onto threads, it does not like to come off. That's why I've got basically all of our critical points here covered up. I just use tin foil. I find that's the easiest thing to cover stuff up like that. I've got the cab makeshiftly covered with a tarp. We really don't care if we get too much overspray on it. It shouldn't bother it too much. I painted this truck 10, 11 years ago. Maybe I'll drop in a couple of pictures what that looked like. We ended up polishing all of the aluminum. We did the wheels. The back rack that was on here, I polished that. And it did look pretty good when it came out, but it was just a pain in the ass to keep maintained. So I've got a garden hose out here. I have sprayed a little water on the hood. As long as I keep that wet, we shouldn't have any problems with overspray hanging up on it. I probably better get another piece of plastic to put down over this fuel tank, but we might as well go ahead and get started. And we'll get our base coat on, then we'll go through and put our top coat of color on. I'm not going to do from the back of the cab forward. That's all in pretty good shape. You can see the original red paint here, and then the red that we put on 10, 11 years ago. But I don't have time to clean all that up and whatever like that. So we might as well go ahead and get started here. Well, we have the POR all applied. We painted the fifth wheel upside down, painted the whole truck frame. Then we set the fifth wheel into place, and then I went around it with another coat. I've got the one airbag that I had in stock. I've got that installed. The idea was to install all of them after I got POR on there, and then to put another coat on everything. But the airbags that I've got are not the correct ones. So this POR is just starting to tack up, and we're going to go ahead and add a color to it. We're going to put red over the top of this black here. When you're using the POR, you need to get your top coat on there when and while this product is somewhat tacky. If you let it dry, it gets too hard and the paint will not stick to it. The paint will fall off. So the idea is to add the color to it, just kind of like you would put your last coat on of paint when you're painting. So we'll go ahead and add the color, and then we can kind of wrap this job up. I don't know what I'm going to be able to do without the correct airbags, but it might be sitting in the shop here for a little while. But oh well, that's what happens. Well, I guess that's going to about do it for this video. We sprayed a gallon of red paint on this frame, and you can see there's a fair amount of overspray, but we ended up putting it on there pretty thick. So I went ahead and removed all of our foiled up covers that we had on the airlines and up on the connectors for the valve body and little air connectors there as well. So tomorrow I'm gonna have to see if I can get some airbags. Kenworth was sold out of them, and I ended up buying 7 of them on eBay. I had that one, that's a Firestone bag there, and then the ones I got on eBay were half the cost, maybe a third of the cost of what the ones were from Kenworth. I was a little skeptical of them because I didn't know what kind of rubber they were made out of, but I said, you know what, these have been on there quite a while, and then I get the ones that don't have the correct fitting on them. So we'll have to source some airbags tomorrow. I do have a set of full fenders that we're gonna go ahead and put on this. I don't think we'll work on this at all tomorrow. This paint is still gonna be tacky, being that we have got so much on it. So we've got some other projects that we need to work on that we can do in the meantime. But with that being said, that is gonna do it for this video. We're gonna roll into the next project, which you guys won't see for a while because it's gonna take me multiple steps to get it done. I do have a toolbox and a back rack there for the F350, and I have an L-shaped fuel tank here. This tank we've had for 20 some years. It measures 30 by 60 and it's 112 gallons or something. But there's some divots in some bump outs in the box of the F350 that's not going to really allow that tank to fit in there too awful well. So we have to do some modifications to it to get it to work. Those tanks do not work in a short box truck. There's not enough room behind the wheel well on any truck. It has to go in front of the wheel well, and it's designed to go in with a toolbox. And for whatever reason, the Ford has a bump out on the one side. I think that is for the fuel gas fill, and the other one, there's one on the opposite side that is the exact same. The new tanks that you can buy today are somewhat elliptical. They're shaped almost like a Y. They're tapered on the outsides for that very reason. But they are like $800 to $900, and I really don't want to spend $800 to $900. We're going to take it somewhere this week and have the liner, the spray-in bed liner put in it as well. So I've got a little bit of time now to screw around with the back rack, and then I won't be able to put the toolbox in until it gets back from getting the liner put in it. So that is gonna do it for this video. I want to thank you for watching, and we will catch you at the next one.